A lot of you got some strange, morbid kind of joy out of watching Georgia Tech beat Miami yesterday. And I had people knocking our door down earlier in the week, Jesse and Colin. They were asking me, "Why are you so low on Miami?" I said, "What do you mean low on Miami?" And they said, "Well, in the JP poll, you've got them way lower than the AP poll." Well, I wasn't low on Miami. The AP poll was high on Miami. It's two different possibilities there. We had Miami pegged. We put a little ceiling on them because they are a very good team. They've got a great quarterback, but their outcomes were always going to be wildly volatile as long as they were playing the brand of football they were playing. It's just walking up to the stove and going like that and going like that, and eventually you touch it and you get burned. They got burned yesterday. Don't act like this couldn't have happened against Virginia Tech. Could have happened against Cal. Now, I will say this in terms of watchability, this was a 3.5 Chalai game. This is a really entertaining game. They played a good team. Georgia Tech's a good team. We talked about this game Thursday. I was very concerned about it. I put it on the upset alert concern meter, and it was at a 7 or an 8, I think. They've hit the gas several weeks when they see the yellow light, which we do in traffic all the time. But if you keep hitting the gas, when that light turns yellow, eventually you don't make it through, and it turns red, and the cop's sitting over there on his motorcycle, and he pulls you over, and Miami got pulled over yesterday. It wasn't fatal to their playoff hopes or anything like that, or their ACC title hopes, but they were dealt a little bit of a blow, and it's felt inevitable. If you've watched this team play, it's felt inevitable for a little while. So there was a semi-padlock stat in this game. And first I want to tell you, Brent Key is now 12-2 at Georgia Tech coming off a loss. Look at the post-it. It's a post-it pop. And he's got 6 ranked wins as an unranked team. So if you play Brent Key, heads up. If you play Georgia Tech, heads up. Now here's the semi-padlock stat. A padlock stat, for those of you who are new around here, is it's a form of a stat where if we knew it on Friday, we would automatically know the outcome of a game. But then we have a semi-padlock stat, or a fadlock stat, or a badlock stat, as we sometimes call it. And this is something where you would have thought it was a slam dunk, but then you realize it's not. If I told you Georgia Tech was going to have a 271 to 88 rushing yardage advantage, you would think, or at least I would think, that's good. That's good. But what did Cam Ward do? Because if Cam Ward exploded, then that could explain that. Well, Miami led in overall passing 348 to 99. So if you told me both of those, I would have been right back to neutral, and I would say, okay, I still have no clue who wins this game. Could go either way. So what's going to decide it? The same thing we talked about Thursday. The high leverage situations. And they killed Miami. Finally, Miami was on the wrong side of this because they didn't go take the game, and they allowed the game and the opponent to take them. Miami was 1 of 5 on 4th downs. 3 of those ended at the Georgia Tech 23, Georgia Tech 28, Georgia Tech 39. Tech was 9 of 14 on 3rd down. Miami was 3 of 10 on 3rd down. And I think the most glaring part of all this, I don't know what stood out to you, the most glaring part of all this is Georgia Tech only needed 28 to win this. If Georgia Tech was going to beat Miami, I thought it was mid to upper 30s, unless Cam Ward was knocked out of the game or something like that. But this, I mean, there's Cam Ward. And they turned the ball over some, but Georgia Tech just played them tough. Just played them tough. I know after these upset games, everyone wants to say something so profound. And especially if it's Miami. Miami is very polarizing. Cristobal is very polarizing because everyone's got to take on them and him, and the outcomes never change your mind. But if you don't believe in them or you're critical of him, and then they lose, just like the Georgia Tech game last year down in Coral Gables or down in Miami, you want to hop on your show if you have one, or you want to hop on your social accounts, which most of you have one, or you want to tell your buddy via text or straight up phone call if you want to be really disrespectful, something really profound. And I don't think there's anything profound to be drawn from this. I watched this Miami game yesterday, and it didn't seem much different to me than a couple of other games I've watched them play this year. It's just that they lost this one, whereas they found a way to win, and finding a way to win those games is wonderful if you don't have to learn the hard lesson. But sometimes teams have to lose before they look in the mirror and learn hard lessons about themselves. So maybe some people needed to see them lose. Who knows? Maybe some guys on that team needed to lose. Well, now they lost. Now they lost. I don't think any different of them. Still think they're the best team in the ACC. I still think they're the favorite to win the ACC. I think they will win the ACC. They removed any margin for error in that path. They better not lose again. They better win that conference title, or they're probably not in the playoff. But as long as they take care of business, everything's still in front of them. However, that doesn't change the fact that there's a lot of stuff that they got to clean up. And again, I will remind you, it's November. It's not the second week of fall camp. We're not talking about Miami's second scrimmage of fall camp and, we got to get this stuff cleaned up. This is it. This is the stretch run. This is when you're supposed to be peaking. The teams that are going to be there in the end, they're peaking. Like they're doing what Bama did yesterday. They're doing what Texas has done. They're doing what Ole Miss did yesterday, what Oregon's doing. That's not what Miami's doing right now. Having said that, I am never going to eliminate a team that I think probably has the best quarterback in the country playing for them. We've learned that lesson before in college football. But there was just nothing profound I took away from this. It was not a referendum or an indictment. It was more of the same. It was very inconsistent play. It is a team that I still think is dangerous if it gets its act together, but it is not a team right now that I would pick to do much more than win their conference. I think that's a fair characterization of where Miami's at. Good for Georgia Tech. Good for them. I was not surprised at the outcome. Was not surprised at all at the outcome. I think it was very much an off-the-radar game. And so when people saw the final, maybe it took you aback. We spent, Jesse, like 5 minutes on this game Thursday. So we talked about the potential. Now, Miami's still the favorite to win the ACC, but SMU's right there behind them. And this crept open the door for Clemson again. It crept open the door. So Clemson is still very much alive in this whole conversation.